Win, and you are in. They got the Detroit Lions Sunday night with the whole world watching. Joy Taylor, you got Aaron Rodgers, you got Tom Brady, you got the Packers, you got the Bucs. Which NFC team should be feared most? Is it the Packers or the Bucs?
It's the Bucs. It's the Bucs. Let's be honest about why anyone would be afraid, fear of the Packers. It's Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. Why would anyone be afraid of the Bucs right now?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Yeah.
All right. Well, who's playing better? Who's playing better at the quarterback position? Who's being an instrument
Brady.
of the wins?
Yeah.
Tommy.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Tommy.
Beat the Panthers, 432 yards, 3 touchdowns, 127 rating. Meanwhile, the Packers whooped on the Vikings. What did Aaron Rodgers do? 15 of 24, 159 yards, 1 touchdown. They're not winning because of Rodgers, which is a good thing. Who cares how you win, right? Until you get to the playoffs, and then you got to do it yourself. Now, we've seen Aaron do it. We've also seen Aaron not do it, as Shady brought up yesterday. I don't know why we were just, like, erasing Aaron's playoff history, like he's been to 10 Super Bowls, has been to multiple Super Bowls at all. He hasn't. So if you're asking me who I should be afraid of, I'm obviously going to the quarterbacks because neither one of these teams have been very good all season long. Mm-hmm. And Tom Brady is playing at a higher level than Aaron Rodgers is right now.
It's fascinating. I think about how are they playing right now. Tom Brady, from an offensive output perspective, you could argue is playing better, obviously. But then we got to focus on those turnovers, which we all at this desk, we pay attention to. What I found most fascinating, since December, Aaron Rodgers has 0 multiple interception games. What NFC quarterbacks have multiple interception games? Tom Brady, he got 3 of them. The Eagles' starting quarterback, Jalen Hurts, has 1. The Eagles' backup quarterback, Gardner Minshew, has 1. Kirk Cousins, he has 2 of them. Dak Prescott, he has 3 of them. Geno Smith, Seahawks quarterback, he has 1. So when I'm thinking about who is going to protect the ball and who is protecting the ball in the right here, right now, that's where I'm like, well, Aaron Rodgers is not putting up any 300-yard games. Shady, you reminded me of that and the viewer of that yesterday. Aaron Rodgers, no 300-yard games all season. That is astonishing. But I'm like, wait, if you're not giving the ball away and your defense is taking the ball, remember what they did to the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, Tua was playing through a concussion. Remember what he's did to Kirk Cousins, and remember what they did to Kirk Cousins. That's why, Joy, I think the Packers are to be feared most, not because Aaron Rodgers is going to hit you for 400 yards. He's likely not going to do that. But it doesn't appear he's going to give the ball away too many times either, Dave.
The Packers are a better overall team. I agree. Tom Brady's playing better. I love, like, you can look at the same set of data and come to different conclusions, because that's where I'm at. Like, Tom Brady's playing amazing.
That's us every week, actually.
That is a very fair point, Shady. That is a very fair point.
So you don't forget.
Never. I wouldn't. I never would.
Good day.
Here's the thing. The Bucs are an incredibly one-dimensional team. They just are. You realize in the last 6 weeks, going back to when they beat Seattle in Munich, mm-hmm. the low, Tom Brady's low for attempts. You want to take a guess at it? Because it's wild.
We'll go 38.
Anybody else?
40.
It's 43.
Yeesh.
That's the low. That's all they can do. Like, literally all they can do is say, Tom, please bail us out of this. And he does, because he's the best ever. But in the playoffs, like, teams in the playoffs take away what you do best. I mean, they already can't run the ball. And so if you're playing the Niners or the Cowboys or or the Eagles, some of these defenses that get after it, how's that going to look for you? Like, even Tom Brady, I don't think, can drop back and throw 50 times in a game against the best of the best and have it work out for him. I don't trust that. I will say, I think you would rather be the Bucs right now. They're going to get to play at home, and they'll get a Cowboys opponent, very likely, that they've already beaten twice in the last year. The Bucs should have a lot of confidence about that. I think the Packers are playing better football because they have more ways to do it. We all trust Aaron Rodgers to make a play in a spot, at least, right?
I absolutely do.
Their defense has 12 takeaways in the last month. Only 3 giveaways on offense. Like, Rodgers might not be amazing, but to your point, he's not giving the other team the ball. They just put it on a team that's going to be in the playoffs. We haven't seen the Buccaneers do that. I mean, they beat Seattle in a nice game 6 weeks ago, and since then, they needed a miracle against the Saints. They won in overtime against an Arizona team that was playing, was it Colt McCoy? And I think Trace McSorley ended that game. And then they outlasted Carolina. They outlasted Carolina. So I think the Bucs are in a more favorable situation. I think the Packers are a much better team.
I could argue the literal
Isn't it great?
I can make the same
Isn't that great?
argument.
I love it.
The Packers run the ball,
It's
and
great.
occasionally Aaron Rodgers throws it. He's not bailing them out. Most of the teams that they've beaten on this stretch outside of the Vikings are.
Your name better be Pat
bad
Mahomes if
to-
you're going to throw 45 times a game in the playoffs.
No, I
Like,
agree, but what happens when they stop the run game for the Packers?
It's true.
What are they going to do?
I hear you.
So it's like they're the same team, right? Except for one is in the playoffs and one still has to win to even get in this weekend,
fair.
or this conversation is irrelevant.
Where you staying 2-5?
See, I agree with Joy, but then again, when I think about it, the question is the team, right? I would love to say that Tom Brady's playing better than Aaron Rodgers, because he is. But the team, they're 4 games in a row, winning streak. You can't make that up. Now, if it's the running game, if it's the defense, special teams, they getting it done. They winning games, and the Bucs are up and down. They're up and down with wins. So I gotta go with the Packers. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they're ranked 10th over the last month. Takeovers, right? The most takeaways in the last 4 or 5 games, they're leading the league. They balling. So when I look at the team, you're averaging 150 yards on the ground. That's top 10 numbers. So you control the game, and you don't have to have Aaron Rodgers going for 300, because we haven't seen it all year, and we probably won't see it. But the way they're winning games as a team, I got to take them over the Bucs.
Joy, what do you make of this? Because I wanted to say the Bucs, but then I started realizing, though I don't believe the Vikings are great, I'll be honest, I don't believe they're great. I do believe they are a great litmus test.
Okay.
Like, I don't think they're a great team, but I think they're a great team for you to realize just how great or not great are you. The Vikings have been blown out 3 times this season. They've lost 4 times, but blown out 3 times. We all know the 3. The Eagles gave them that work. We were all at my house watching that game, and then we stopped watching it because it was ugly. The Cowboys gave them that work. America stopped watching that game because they had to turn it off. The Packers gave them that work, and the Packers did it most recently, and it's not as though the Vikings were injured, nor maligned, nor anything of that caliber. What do you make, Joy, of the fact that we know the Vikings might not be good, but if the Vikings have only lost 4 games, and they've gotten blown out by 3 teams, we know the Cowboys are good enough. We know the Eagles are, some would argue, great. And the Packers, we don't know how they are, but can't you look at what they did to a good team and say, you know what? They got to be something good.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're a bad team. They're certainly trending upwards at the time of the season that you want to be playing that. If they hadn't played so terrible through most of the season, then we wouldn't have that many questions about them.
True.
Like, are they going to make the playoffs? Because they're not in yet. They still have to beat the Lions, who are a team that's also trying to make the playoffs.
Very true.
So we're sitting here speaking about a hypothetical playoff team. Just to remind everyone. I know Packers fans have just already written themselves in. Andy's over there. But they might not even be in the playoffs. So, yeah, I'll take the team that's already in to start. So this whole conversation might not even be relevant. If they make the playoffs, if they make the playoffs, why would I be more afraid of a team that has to win one way? They have to run the ball at a very high level in order to win games. Also, why, when the Eagles have this long stretch of just wins, we're like, well, they haven't really beat anybody. Outside of the Vikings, who the Eagles whooped on earlier, as you mentioned, they beat a lot of regular teams, right? Yeah. Look who the Packers just beat on this stretch. Why does it not count for the Packers? Is it a big deal that they beat the Bears? Aaron Rodgers always beats the Bears. He just shows up and they lose.
Is it
a big deal that they beat the Rams?
The Dolphins, and for me, it's the Dolphins.
Crushing the Vikings
I'm going to keep it real about the Dolphins. That's not an impressive win, especially when you consider what happened with Tua in that game. You won the game, not taking anything away from it.
The only reason I consider it is because, as we all know, unfortunately, especially this week, injuries are a part of the game of football. Yeah. So if the quarterback does get hurt, it had Tua been pulled, they got to put in Teddy Bridgewater. So even if Tua doesn't play that game, the Packers likely still going to find a way to win that game.
But that's not a good team in that space. Teddy Bridgewater is not playing at a high level, and they're not. They've lost 5 in a row.
But they both have beat this okay teams too, though. If you really look at the teams, right?
Bucs and Packers.
Yeah, the Bucs and Packers.
They got play in the worst division of football.
I would say they got a lucky, worst division, and they got a lucky win with the Cardinals. I couldn't believe that game was to the wire. Yep. I'll just say this: the only difference is on the teams, the Packers. Once Matt LaFleur, and I give him a lot of credit for this. Once he changed the game plan, we're so used to saying Aaron Rodgers. All right, look, Aaron, sit in the back. I got this. when they start putting it on the running game and more on the defense, they started winning games. And now that's the formula. If you watch Aaron Rodgers, he's okay with that. I was surprised to see how vocal he was to speak on the running game. Like he's happy with him not balling crazy, but the winning games and the running game taking over. So they can change that. Only thing about the Bucs, they can't. Right? They can't run the ball.
They are who they are.
And they're up and down. One game, Mike Evans could be Mike Evans going for 200 yards, balling out. Tom Brady, 400 yards. And the other games, he could go for just 200 yards and 3 picks. And that's crazy to say that, but it's the truth.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.